Good morning, everyone. I think PS did a number on me there when he invited our immaculate entertainer to re-enter the space because I think I'm disoriented at this point as well. Excellent performance. Let me acknowledge the PS in his absence, as well as the personnel from the ministry. Thank you all for inviting me and having me here. Let me also acknowledge other specially invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a good day to be having this discussion about empowering rural women achieving a sustainable future. And I come to this discussion as someone who is from the best parish, St. Elizabeth. And I come to the discussion having full understanding of the issues that rural women are confronted with. And I am doing somewhat a dual role today. So I'm the monitoring and evaluation specialist on the Biggie program, essentially boosting innovation, growth, and entrepreneurship ecosystem. And this is a program residing at the Development Bank of Jamaica. And the primary mandate is really to encourage and to cultivate entrepreneurship across the length and breadth of Jamaica. And as an institution, we recognize the invaluable contribution of women, and particularly we also recognize that structurally women face certain challenges that hinders them from accessing opportunities or resources that are available, especially in the space of entrepreneurial development. And so at the Biggie, we have continuously re-evaluated, continuously to change our program requirements so to ensure that it is gender inclusive and that it is gender responsive. And so what we have observed over time is that women, like men, have equal entrepreneurial abilities, but women often are faced with certain structural barriers which are often not of their own making. And so as an institution, we have sought to adjust our eligibility requirements to ensure that women can access our programs and that we are also tracking gender indicators that reflect the whole ethos of the Development Bank of Jamaica to be inclusive and ensure that we spread economic growth and development across Jamaica. So that is what we have been doing at the Development Bank of Jamaica. But if I should speak broadly about the contribution of women in the agriculture industry, as someone from St. Elizabeth, agriculture is one of those industries that fuel a lot of families. And we can appreciate that women are the head of many families. But one of the challenges that we must recognize is that whilst women are key stakeholders and players in the agricultural sector, there are challenges that undermines their own efforts at tapping into opportunities available for their own development and for their own ability to scale their agricultural production. So it is customary that we start off with acknowledging what we are doing right, and then we transition into the challenges. So over time, at the national as well as at the community level, we are seeing greater efforts to coordinate programs that responds to some of the challenges that women face, and particularly in the area of developing businesses. Women equally are entrepreneurial in nature, but we also acknowledge that women are usually the head of households. And because of that unpaid care responsibility, a lot of women are not able to give their fullest attention to tapping into emerging opportunities as well as to scale their operations. But that is a reality that we are confronted with. And if I should reference a recent study from CAPRI, Caribbean Policy Research Institute, it highlighted the fact that approximately 15,000 individuals within the labor force, they are willing and they're able to work, but they are not actively seeking a job because of unpaid care responsibility. And approximately 96% of that 15,000 individuals are who? Women. So that speaks to the fact that we have structural as well as policy issues that governments, civil society, and multilaterals have to respond to. And so what it calls for is more policy interventions that supports women thrust for entrepreneurship, for agricultural development. And what it means is that we need to see more programs that enables women to manage their care responsibilities, but at the same time be able to venture into scaling their agricultural production. And this is key if we're going to build the resilience that we are talking about. Because resilience has to be built on the premise of inclusion. Women represents one of the most vulnerable segment of our population. By construct, societies are structured in a way where men get ahead because of just how the system is structured. So if we are to address the vulnerabilities faced by women in agriculture, we have to look at how we can complement their efforts at offering care, but also at the same time supporting their efforts to scale in their agricultural production. So that is an important dimension that we have to focus on. On the side of supporting them through finance and capacity development, the Development Bank of Jamaica has been working overtime to see how we can support women in this area. And we have developed, and we are actually in the process of launching what we call Women Focus Incubator and Accelerator programs. And that program emanates out of a recognition that women have innovative ideas. Women are creative in nature, but they require probably hand-holding, they require the technical support, and they require generally an ecosystem that encourages their own entrepreneurial side. And so this program is seeking to equip women-led businesses, and those businesses can come from the agricultural sector. And it is aimed at equipping them with that idea of how to not just start the business, but also how to scale their operations and to become an export-ready business that can earn and move along the value chain. Because we recognize and appreciate that women have something to contribute. And whether they're coming from agriculture or other industries, we want to encourage and to cultivate entrepreneurship among women. And so on the finance side, we also have grant programs that we have adjusted the eligibility requirements over time to make it easier for women to get into some of these programs. So we have what is called counterpart funding to be able to access grant programs. We have reduced the threshold for women so they are able to access grants, they are able to drive their own production and their own capacity development in entrepreneurship and in business. Another area that we have to look at as we seek to build that resilience and to empower women is in the area of getting more women and girls into science, technology, engineering, and math areas. Globally, the world faces a significant challenge where we are transitioning into a more sustainable and a more greener future. But one of the challenges that it is noted is that women are not a significant portion of the labor force that are in those green jobs. So we have to position our women to be able to transition with where the world will be going, and agriculture plays an important role because we're talking about climate smart agriculture. That requires us to expose women to innovation in climate smart agriculture, and this will enable them to move along with the transitionary period that we are in. Because if we do not position our women to transition as the world transition, we will ultimately leave our women behind. And so we cannot talk about resilience and empowerment if we are not also empowering our women in the STEM areas to be able to transition equally towards a more resilient and a more sustainable future. So it's very important that we focus on increasing the participation of women in those lucrative industries. Because women in agriculture, and I speak from the fact of coming from St. Elizabeth, my own parents is in the agricultural space. And one of the challenges that women often are confronted with is that they are forced, based on the circumstances, to accept the bare minimum. So if they are doing production, the narrative often doesn't encourage them to scale. And so we have to look at how do we get our women to move along the value chain. That is how they will be able to earn more from agriculture. And so it requires more localized efforts. And so this calls on us to leverage partnerships with our multilateral entities. I know USA does a lot of work in this space. And so it's critical that we leverage those strategic partnerships as governments and as individuals within strategic positions to leverage those opportunities so that we can bring opportunities to women to be able to unlock greater value chain development in their agricultural production. And as I conclude my presentation, I want to applaud the ministry for recognizing this day, because it speaks to the fact that it is acknowledged that women are an important stakeholder in conversations about resilience building. But out of that recognition, we hope to see policy actions, we hope to see programmatic interventions that helps women to be able to tap into their God-given talents and opportunities. And I believe that if we are able to address fundamentally the challenge of financing, the challenge of unpaid care work that women have to be dedicated towards. And if we're also able to get more young ladies into areas of science, technology, engineering, if we can get those three things correct, we will put women on the upward trajectory. And that will assist us to be able to talk about gender inclusivity. That will enable us to talk about building resilience among women. But it is important that we start with conversations to recognize that fundamentally we are not where we ought to be. But after the conversation, we should mobilize communities to bring the necessary support systems to women right across Jamaica. So I reiterate my full support and applaud to the ministry for having this day, and I am confident that going forward we will redouble our efforts to be able to provide women with the strategic support that they require, because ultimately we are building a Jamaica where all citizens, male and female, can cultivate a journey that capitalizes on their God-given talents, whilst we eradicate the structural issues that dampens their ability. So thank you again, everyone, and I look forward to activities emanating out of this media launch, but more so at a national and a community level.